and welcome in the German Museum of Architecture. Here we go. Was it me or was it you? Us? Okay. I can see the Liebling House starts already too. So welcome to our series Urban Kibbutz. We're going to talk about inspiring architecture and planning of affordable housing tonight. My name is Beate Steinbach. I'm the moderator for tonight, and our host is the museum and also Andrea Jürges. Thank you so much for inviting us all. You'll see her on the stage a bit later on. Hiya. This is Sharon. She's getting ready too, I guess. Hey! Great.
I'm so happy to see you, and I'm so happy that we can meet hybridly tonight. Hopefully next time we will meet live.
You are already. Hi, Sharon. So good to hear and see you.
Nice to see you too, the Dam. Hello to the Dam in Frankfurt. So, yes, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the second part of the Urban Kibbutz series. For whoever hasn't been here before, we are dealing with the subject of social housing, and maybe you want to say a few words in the beginning at the Dam, and then we can continue from here.
We would love to. Thank you so much. So why are we here tonight? The reason is the 45th anniversary of the partnership of the cities Tel Aviv and Frankfurt, and the idea to talk about urban transformation in a metropolitan context. We want to talk about the question how we could build, create, and then sustain vibrant neighborhoods. How can we live together in a good and friendly and creative way? How could we build houses and whole cities based on sustainability, neighborhood, democracy, and the idea was to share ideas and present projects from different countries, from both countries, and also a little bit more. You will see it's not only Germany and Israel. There are little surprises for you. You're going to see 6 projects. 3 will be presented in the Liebling House, and 3 will be presented here. And at the end, we're going to come together here on the stage and there, and then you can raise your hand and tell us all your questions you have, or maybe ideas that you want to share. Please feel invited to do that later. Sharon, do you want to add something, please?
Yes. So for whoever wasn't here in the first part, this chapter is going to move forward in order to understand the idea of community in the practical design solutions. So we are actually dealing with architecture today. So which design solutions can bring people together in the cities, and the important question to ask is how can design encourage connection, sharing, resource pooling, and collective responsibility? And maybe the name of our joint venture, Urban Kibbutz, tells us a little bit about what happened in Israel in the establishment of the state, or just in the beginning of the establishment of the state. This was more of a welfare-oriented principle of architecture that we have designed here. And the young state actually invested heavily in public housing, education, healthcare, and social services. And the kibbutz, as an example, was a powerful example of shared resources and collective ownership. Unfortunately, today, this social network is rapidly changing. Also, of course, with the capitalist society in the times we're living at. So these systems were designed in different times, and maybe today we should look at how we live today and maybe understand which new design challenges are to be made with architecture in a contemporary way, and how can we, with technology almost, or the understandings of the state after whatever it has gone through, give solutions in architecture and design. So maybe we can move on and invite our municipality representatives to say hi from both sides.
Yeah, very good. Let's do that. We're going to start here in Frankfurt. Our city councillor is here today, Markus Quechenberger. Welcome to the stage. He's responsible for urban planning in Frankfurt. He does all the work so that we can create new houses and buildings. He does the planning, not the real work. Work with the brain, not with a shovel. So welcome here, and please, can you see and hear us? Also, a warm welcome to Tel Aviv, and the stage is yours.
Yeah, shalom from Frankfurt to Tel Aviv, and hello to our second Urban Kibbutz evening. Hi Sharon, nice to meet you again, and all your guests in the Liebling House. I'm really happy to be part of this inspiring cooperation between our both cities. We are cities who are growing together. Tel Aviv and Frankfurt are growing cities with similar challenges. And the main questions in our cities are, how can we develop a just city? How can we develop a productive city? And how can we develop a green city? We come together to find answers for these questions. Today we will talk about housing and the role of housing for the neighborhoods, for the cities, for affordable housing. This is important because in Tel Aviv as well as in Frankfurt, housing is one of the main questions of our time. Especially affordable housing is not only a social question, for me it's also an important economic question to build and to support and to ensure affordable houses. But we all know housing is also a big and a complex topic. Therefore, we must find solutions for different aspects. And especially our Urban Kibbutz session must find solutions for different aspects. Especially for policy, for architecture, for planning, but also for economic issues. Today we will focus on the question of architecture and planning and how architecture can contribute to communal and affordable living. If we talk about new ideas, we need more pilot projects. We need more good ideas. We need more inspiration. Frankfurt and Tel Aviv are both important cities in our nations. We have the role to test new ideas because we are big cities, we are important cities, and we are also both innovative cities. So our cities must be incubators for new urban ideas, and we can be incubators for new urban ideas. Not every innovation will be perfect from the start. That's important for me. So pilot projects and experimental approaches help us to learn. That's important also. And planning and housing policy should create room for innovation. That's an important issue for me. We must be more innovative. We need more pilot projects. We need more inspiration. And we need also partners willing to explore new models. We need partners for pilot projects, especially architects, developers, cooperatives, investors, but also the social society, the civil society. Because urban development needs cooperation and the combination of ideas and resources. Tonight, we will talk about architecture. For me, architecture plays a crucial role in addressing today's housing challenges. Good architecture is defined by its ability to create high-quality living environments with responsibility use of resources. Well-designed housing should support everyday life, foster accessibility, and offer shared spaces that strengthen social interaction. Architecture is more than a technical question. Architecture is also an important social question. And beyond individual buildings, architecture should contribute positively to the character and identity of a neighborhood and support vibrant urban life. So it's not only about housing, it's also about the city life, the urban life, the urbanity. Tonight, we will see a few examples from Europe and from Israel, from Germany, from Israel and other countries. So the projects presented today, they show us that the future is already built today. Now we need more structures to transform these ideas to practice, and therefore I wish you an interesting evening, good discussions and inspirations. Thank you for your friendship. Shalom to Tel Aviv.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Markus Quechenberger. When you say there are already these inspiring houses from the future, then I'm so excited that we hear about it tonight. But now let's go back to Tel Aviv and have a little introduction from you. Are you ready, Sharon?
Yes, I will invite our representative, but first of all, I would also from our side really thank Markus Quechenberger for this amazing opportunity to do this project together. We're so honored that you spare your time and your energy and for your long friendship with the city of Tel Aviv and everything you have done for us. So thank you so much, Markus. We would like to invite Ella Weber. She's making within the engineering department of the city of Tel Aviv, and maybe you can lead us into this exciting time and period we are facing now in Tel Aviv with everything that has to do with housing and the policy that is created in the strategic department. So please, Ella.
It's really exciting to see such a big crowd tonight, really. I'm happy. So thank you, Markus. And I saw Andrea somewhere over there for sure, on the Frankfurt side. Okay. Okay. And Sharon and Shira and Noam and Galit on the Tel Aviv side. Would like to thank you for our professional ties and friendship and for making this evening happen. So affordable housing and shared housing challenges are discussed throughout the series, and Tel Aviv Jaffa has actively battled both for almost 2 decades. I mean, the first affordable housing policy paper was issued in Tel Aviv in 2008. So we are getting, we're reaching 2 decades. And when I thought about tonight, I realized that most of those battles were concentrated on the policy side of things. That is, we have a comprehensive housing policy paper targeted at affordability. We have numerous policy papers aiming at what we call our sensitive and fragile population groups, like the, people with disabilities, the homeless. And I'd like to, use the opportunity to say that the municipality has just kicked off a task force that's going to deal with the homeless population in Tel Aviv. And last but not least, the elderly, and more specifically, the elderly middle class, because we must understand that as of today, the elderly will mostly have ownership of an apartment, but in a decade or 2, this is going to change. And people with rented apartments are going to grow old in the city, and they will need long-lasting rental solutions. So we do a lot of policy. Lately, we've been also concentrating on implementation, and we'll talk about that during our next sessions, which deal with the finance of housing. But when I thought about it, I realized that so far, there has been much less emphasis on the design of different housing products. Be it build to rent, which is market price, be it affordable housing, be it social housing or shared housing, communal housing. And there's so many questions to answer there, like how do we incorporate these products in the urban fabric of Tel Aviv or Frankfurt? Do they require specific housing typologies? or can they be incorporated in high rises? You guys talked about high rises on your last Pachacucha. And how do they answer the needs of different population groups which we mentioned? So I'm really looking forward to tonight, to the case studies and to the discussion that we'll have that in a way that will help us move forward, as Marcus mentioned, to an inspiring implementation and reality in the future housing of Tel Aviv. Thank you.
So the first one is from our side, Tomer Harari. So from theory to practice, architectural and programmatic feasibility for urban co-housing. Please.
Hello. Good evening to everyone. We will continue what Marcus and Ella started talking about. And now we will talk about some things, some thoughts of cooperative housing. So for those who don't know us, we are Ani and Tomer, and we are architects, graduates of Bezalel Academy, Jerusalem, and we run an architecture practice with a very original name, Ani and Tomer. In 2021, strategic planning team, which is Ella mostly, from Tel Aviv Jaffa municipality, approached us and asked us to study the potential of a unique residential site in the Maccabi Jaffa neighborhood, Bloomfield Stadium. Together, we developed a proposal for an urban cooperative housing project following a new master plan that defined the site for special residential use. The goal was to prepare a future land tender and align it with the core values of cooperation, community, and affordability. These values came from a municipal housing policy document published by the city in 2019. The intention was to give priority to communities and groups of people who wanted to live together in a cooperative framework.
In our daily work, we mainly deal with urban renewal projects. This means that usually we design within a profit-oriented system, where almost every planning decision is influenced by economic consideration. As a result, shared spaces are often reduced to a minimum in favor of private spaces. So the first thing we did was to ask ourselves a few basic questions. What is cooperative housing? Who is it for? What economic model makes it possible? And the most importantly, what makes a building truly cooperative rather than just another residential building in the city? We were happy to discover that cooperative housing is not a new idea in Tel Aviv. About 100 years ago, workers' housing complexes were already being built here by independent cooperative without government support. Through shared responsibility, efficient use of space, and shared services, workers were able to create high quality and affordable housing even in Tel Aviv.
Thus, there were two main and successful models called the COM and the wall. The COM layout provided excellent natural ventilation for all apartments and created open, shared outdoor spaces. The wall layout was organized around a shared courtyard that became the social heart of the community and symbolized both community life and a connection to the land. These housing projects were designed by architects, many of them immigrants from Germany, and influenced by the Bauhaus movement. The architects were selected through public competitions in which future residents were also represented. Residents were active participants in the process, and the main goals were quality of life, efficiency, and simplicity, as you can see on the picture. As part of the design process, architects carefully studied the local climate. So the result was an apartment layout that still influences housing design today. A generous living room connected to a balcony, more compact bedrooms, and utility spaces in between.
We also looked at contemporary examples from abroad. One of them is Prefield in Berlin. The project grew out as a resident protest against a large urban development plan. During the struggle, the community formed around the idea of cooperating living and open urban life. These residents themselves initiated, planned, and developed the project as a cooperative. As a result, the building includes shared kitchens, workspaces, gardens, and public access spaces that encourage interaction and community life, both among residents and with the surrounding neighborhood. Another project we studied was located in Denmark, and unlike Spearfield, which grew up from activism ideology, this project was created by a group of family who simply wanted a stronger social connection and more cooperation in everyday life. The architecture strongly reflects this idea. The building is organized around large central courtyard with open facade facing inward, while the facade facing the street are more closed and private.
So, as we mentioned before, our task was to help the municipality understand the planning possibilities of the site. The starting point was very challenging and a bit disappointing. A large site of approximately 2,500 square meters, around 120 housing units, and no existing community to design for. So we had to think carefully about how to create cooperative housing for the community that did not yet exist.
To avoid a tender that would only suit for a large organization, we explored 3 different planning options. After evaluating them, we decided to move forward with the second one, which divided the project into several buildings. This approach allowed smaller groups of communities to participate as well. Similar to the Spreefield project in Berlin, we created an open and shared courtyard that encouraged movement, interaction, and connection with the neighborhood rather than closed residential compound.
Because cooperative housing is based on households that are not related to each other, but still share parts of everyday life, we decided to reduce the shared spaces inside the apartments to a minimum. Instead, we created shared spaces on every floor. As a result, each floor functions as a large shared one apartment. Basically, when residents leave the elevator, they enter directly into a shared living space with a kitchen and lounge area rather than a narrow corridor. This gives the public space real meaning and makes it an active part of everyday community life. In this case, about 40% of the building is shared space and 60% is private space. While in typical residential buildings, the ratio is usually closer to 15 shared space and 85% private space.
Another important topic for us was flexibility. Each unit was designed using a fixed grid that allow the community to grow and change over time. This provides a solution for different household sizes, different stages of life. Combining different apartment sizes on the same floor creates a diverse mix of residents, individual couples and families, and support rich and diverse community.
So the entire building, as you can see, is organized around a large network of shared spaces, including an open courtyard connected to the neighborhood, shared indoor and outdoor spaces for residents, double height spaces that connect pairs of floors and create smaller communities within the larger building. There are shared kitchens, workspaces, and playrooms on every floor, and rooftop terrace open to all residents.
The building facade were designed to explore different ideas of openness and community. One option was to emphasize the private units and the shared balconies, and the other feature a continuous balcony that inherits a stronger sense of community and encourage everyday interaction between the residents.
Which the plan, I have to say, is the same. It's just the diversion of the facades. So in the end, this project is not about inventing a completely new way of living. It's about rethinking an old idea, such as community, cooperation, and solidarity, while exploring how architecture can create the conditions for communities to thrive in the city. And perhaps it's also about designing places to help people to connect, belong, and overcome the growing sense of loneliness that many people experience in urban life today. So we hope that whoever wins the tender will succeed in creating a new way of living in Tel Aviv. That's it for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Thoma and Ani. It sounds like a lovely place to live in, and you'll see later that we have nearly the same here in Frankfurt, or close to Frankfurt. It matches perfectly. Next up is Melanie Schreiber. She's here for the Dachgeno. Gonna translate it maybe later. She works at the university and is for many years involved in cooperative housing and housing projects. As we could hear at the last session, there's this Mietshäuser-Syndikat, something very special in the forms they build houses and do the bureaucracy and everything. We call it MHS in short. She lives in one of these kinds of houses, but she is one of the founding members of the Dachgeno and a very important part, and gonna tell us what these Dachgeno is doing today in Frankfurt, because they are up to something big. So happy to have you here. The floor is yours. I'm gonna start. Oh, take this one.
Thank you so much for inviting me and for having the opportunity to present the work of our new founded cooperative. My name is Melanie, as Beate already introduced me, and I'm here on behalf of Dachgeno, a new cooperative founded and based in Frankfurt. And I would like to have two parts in my presentation. First, I would like to introduce the concept of Dachgeno because it's a bit different from other cooperatives because of the name already, like Dach, and the translation word by word would mean roof, but it's more like an umbrella cooperative. And then I will briefly introduce a specific project that illustrates how we approach affordable co-housing right now. So, where do I have to? Oder wo ist denn der? Perfect. Some technical difficulties. First, a few words about the Dachgeno and about the group that has founded the Dachgeno. You can see a picture there from our founding conference. And we founded the Dachgeno to create and preserve affordable housing through cooperative ownership. Our work is mainly based on the idea that housing should not be treated primarily as a financial asset, but as a social good. And the Dachgeno sees itself as a socio-political actor. We did found ourselves not because we wanted to buy a specific building, but because we had the vision or the idea that there is an actor needed in Frankfurt that wants to grow and to purchase as many buildings as possible and get them into cooperative ownership. So our members, as you can see here, we have a small group that founded the Dachgeno, and we have a very diverse group of members that have different backgrounds. We have many years of experience in cooperative housing development. We bring together expertise in construction planning, in project implementation, financing, but also in leading group processes and public outreach. And we have we have two main pillars that our work contains of. No, that's the wrong direction. You can see them here. The first pillar is that we want to support tenants who want to collectively purchase the buildings they live in. So in Frankfurt we have a lot of private property buildings, and sometimes if it goes on the market, exactly like that. If it goes on the market, sometimes it's only a short period of time where the tenants can decide if they want to buy it or not. And so we advise and assist resident groups throughout the acquisition process and enable cooperative ownership through the Dachgeno. And we try to help preserve affordable housing through the engagement and strengthen the participation of tenants. And try to protect homes from the speculative pressures of the real estate market. And the second pillar is more co-housing focused. This is where we work together with different kind of self-organized groups, and we support them throughout the planning, the financing, and even the long-term management process of buildings. And like I already said, we see ourselves as an umbrella organization, so many different groups can come to us and we get them advice, and in the future we hope that we will realize a lot of different kind of buildings through this kind of structure. But today I would like to focus on one community-led project. It's our first project, and this project is located in Frankfurt, here, Wittelsbacher Allee 89, it's the address of the building. And this project originated through a concept-based selection process organized by the city of Frankfurt. It was a vacant, already existing building, as you can see. And together with the self-organized group, which is called Flur 403, which is named after the place in the city map of this building, we wrote a concept, and we had developed a concept, and this proposal was ultimately selected in the process. So we were very, very happy that we could convince the jury with the social, ecological, and architectural quality of the concept. Our vision in this building was to create a place that combines affordability, sustainability, and community. And I will tell you a little bit about the project as well. So you can see first, I will not talk about the specific planning, but more about the group and the concept. It's an intergenerational concept. For us, it was important to have a diverse group that wants to live in this building, and that we have people with different ages and backgrounds that they can live together and support one another. And on the other hand, it was important for us to focus on long-term affordability. So on the one hand, as a cooperative, we will not get profit with the rent that is paid afterwards, and we have a collective ownership structure, and we will also provide public housing subsidies so that rents will remain affordable in the long term. And also important for the concept is that we want to get, this is a very old building as you can see on the picture, that we will get this house to a more sustainable development as well, so that we aim to combine ecological building practices with viable solutions that this building will no longer have such a high CO2 emissions. To the more specific planning, I have some key features of the project that I wanted to talk to you about. It's not as big a project as the one we saw in Tel Aviv. It's only a small house. It only contains 10 apartments. But we try to design flexible layouts for different household types. And I have to decide where I look. it's a bit. We have different layouts for different household types and life stages. We have tried to develop different kinds of shared spaces within the building. So we have a community space, like a shared flat in the upper levels, including a guest room and a communal kitchen, but also like shared laundry spaces, shared laundry room, workshop, a bicycle storage in the basement, and so on. Even a small garden is behind the house that we can use. And also, what is important for us, I already told this a little bit, the project places a strong emphasis on environmental performance, so we will meet the, it's a German standard, KfW Efficiency House 55. I hope it's internationally known so that you can know what I'm talking about, but it's a German bureaucratic term. We rely on resource-efficient low-tech solutions rather than complex technical systems wherever possible. So that means, for example, that we will try to operate the house as an all-electric house, combining photovoltaic panels and infrared heating and decentralized ventilation systems. Also, regarding the climate change and the even getting hotter of cities every year, we are thinking about green facades so that we will have passive solar shading and improve the microclimate for the residents, but also for the neighborhood. And we try to conserve some of the resources already existing in the house, like the timber flooring, interior doors, so that we will refurbish them, reuse them wherever possible, and reducing waste and preserving valuable materials like that. I was told beforehand that it's also important to talk a little bit not only about planning but also about financing projects like this. So I'm being very transparent here. We have approximately 580 square meters in this building that we can renovate. We plan right now with the cost of renovation around 3,500 euros per square meter. This is approximately 2.5 million euros. We will see if this works out. And this, our financial strategy is designed to balance financial stability with long-term affordability. Thank you. And to do that, we will get 30% of the required capital as equity, and this equity will be raised through cooperative shares and small private loans that we will get from supportive individuals from this region. This strong equity base reduces financial risk and strengthens the community ownership and the low rents that we will realize. And we try also to get additional funding from public programs supporting the modernization of the existing building, like the modernization program from the city of Frankfurt. So as a result, we can require a bank loan that is relatively low, and which in turn helps us maintain affordable rents. So that means that despite substantial investments, we can still realize a rent that is below the market. Thank you so much. I must excuse myself a little bit because I came here directly from work and my concentration is getting a bit lost, I have to say, but I think it will work out. And last but not least, I want to say something maybe about, and I don't have another PowerPoint for that, but I wanted to say also that our way of working is a bit different, because in this umbrella organization we have to put in new forms of working together and working collaboratively. And in this way, with this first project, we made a new project development committee in our cooperative so that we have equal representation from the Dachgeno and the project group from this specific building, and all decisions will be formed together, and so that we can ensure that the future residents are actively involved in the whole process of financing, of planning from the very beginning. And this is, I come to an end now. I think I already talked. No, jetzt ist es andersrum. So, the last thing I can say is, if you want to support our mission of becoming a greater player in the Frankfurt area and purchase as many buildings as possible in the near future, you can become a member, because we want to add on the idea of cooperatives that was already developed in the 1920s and become a strong cooperative, or you could even invest with a small private loan. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for this inspiring way of thinking about cooperative housing. So to be frank, when the strategic department and the Liebling Lab made a research about inspiring projects in Tel Aviv or in Israel of communal housing, we didn't really find so many projects that, you know, inspired us, at least architecturally. But we did stumble across a project that was not a communal housing from its get-go. So it was a typical, normal architectural design of a tenant building, but it somehow developed into a communal space by itself, which we found very fascinating, like how design can actually do the thing it was meant to do without announcing it before. So it's almost organic. And for this, we have invited Matan Sapir from HQ Architects, and he will tell us about the building in Fin 1, which we're about to see. Thank you.
So I was invited to talk about our housing project in Fin 1 and the community that lives there. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Okay. Maybe. But I would like to start with the theme of this event, which is urban kibbutz. When we think of an urban kibbutz, we usually picture communities that come together around a clear ideology or shared vision. But tonight I want to talk about a community that grew from completely Okay, I want to talk about a community that grew from completely different soil, out of need and scarcity. I want to talk about how planning constraints and architectural decision can actually create a community. Wow. Sorry. Okay. To understand this project, we must understand the starting point. The Neve Sha'anan neighborhood geographically is not far from the center of Tel Aviv, but in every other way, it is the city's deepest periphery, a hub for crime, prostitution, drug trafficking, and illegal immigrants. For years, the building at Fin 1 Street was an infamous site in the middle of Neve Sha'anan. It was filled with drug dealers, addicts, sex workers, and lost teens. It became a concept and the epicenter of the neighborhood criminal activity and a symbol of urban hell. So in 2010, when the buyers of the lot approached us and asked us to plan a residential project in this site, we took the task very seriously. We realized this was no ordinary project. The question was not just how to build a new building, but how to heal a broken place. The lot size is 1,000 square meters, with 3 facades facing streets and the 4th one facing neighboring lots. One of our first challenges was that not all the residents agreed to live. After a long negotiation and a legal process, we understood that we have no choice but to keep a small part of the old structure, which was occupied, and build a new building on top of it. The client requirements was small, affordable units of about 50 square meters, meant for young professionals. The zoning for this area allowed for a commercial ground floor with 5.5 residential floor above it. The building right allowed us to build 55 housing units of this size. So, yeah, next one. So how do you fit 55 apartments into 5.5 floors and still allow cross ventilation for all of them? Our main design decision was to break away from the standard Tel Aviv typology. Instead of a closed block around the central core, we chose to invert the box. We pushed the building to the street lines and designed the apartments around the inner courtyard. The typical floor plan includes 10 apartments. Each unit is around 50 square meters and includes 2 bedrooms and a living room. The layout allows all the apartments to get a cross ventilation. On the top floor, we designed 5 slightly larger apartments. Yeah, this is the top. Yeah. In 2017, the demolition of the old building began. It was a major media event that was even broadcast live. Here you can see the building during construction and how we suspended the new structure over the parts of the old building that remained. And this is the finished building. The exterior facade is white and minimalist, typical to Tel Aviv. So the building blends quietly into the street. Because the building rights, because we built right up to the property line, we couldn't plant private balconies for the apartments. So instead, we widened the open corridors surrounding the courtyard to create useful spaces for the residents. These inner balconies were designed with a wavy shape, creating movement and constant eye contact between different floors. When a resident steps out, he can see his neighbor next to him, as well as those above and below. The balcony were designed to shade the open inner courtyard, creating a pleasant microclimate for most of the year. The shading system and cross ventilation were not just about making the building green. They were mainly about making it more affordable. The lack of private balconies turned from a constraint into an opportunity. It forced all outdoor life to gather inside the shared courtyard, which became the key factor in creating the community dynamics. Daily actions like smoking a cigarette, watering a plant, or talking to the phone happen within the community space. The resident entered the building through the courtyard. The courtyard serves as the building lobby, but also a gathering space that encourages the community to meet, celebrate events, and have Friday drinks. Next, we decided to paint the inner courtyard a vibrant red in contrast with the minimalist white exterior that helped the building blend into the street. This contrast defines the border between the city and the home, creating identity and belonging. Next. Construction was finished in 2020.
Back online. Hey, Sharon, can you hear me? We lost you. Okay, we don't hear you yet. I can see myself from behind. That's creepy. Okay, still working on it. While we do that, I just thought, don't you think an aspect is also that you can put your money somewhere and do good? I mean, you said it's for education, but if you have money and the alternative is to give it into an ETF and pay, I don't know, Rheinmetall or any other weapon producing company your money, and you know what they do with it. The alternative is to put it into a kind of project like this, and you can walk along and take a look what your money is doing. Don't you think that's also an aspect?
Can you hear us now?
Ah, yeah, we can hear you, but we don't see you yet.
Oh, right. Oh,
But at least we hear you. That's beautiful. Very good.
Yeah, that's a start. Did you could you follow the last presentation?
Yeah, more or less. We lost you at the end, but I think it's all right. We saw the building was built, and we saw that it's the people live in there today. An amazing project. I really want to live there. And this red paint, who marks the place to meet the neighbors, and the idea to have not a private balcony, but balconies, bigger balconies, to meet your neighbors and create some space where you can spend time together. I think it's great. It's one of the things that every house needs.
Okay, so like we say, the pointer in Hebrew is made, so that's good. Great, so I think it's your turn again.
It is. Then I'm going to invite Marlene Hübel to the stage. She's an architect. She works at Bolthauser Architects, a bureau where they plan and build special houses, and they do a lot with timber construction. So they build houses with wood. And one aspect is, how do we live? So do we meet our neighbors? Are we going to spend some time together? But the other part is, how do we build houses? Not only on the aspect of design, also on the aspect of construction. And environment is an important part of our life. It gets hotter and hotter. So to build houses made of wood is very important. And she comes from Switzerland and will present a city district in Regensdorf. It's in Switzerland, so our neighbors, a long way to Frankfurt. Thank you so much for coming. And will present these city district and one of the highest high rises made of wood. So very, very excited to have you here. Please come onto the stage. This is for you, number 2. And there's some water for you. We just need to rebuild this little place here. It's architecture, so do you have everything you need?
Okay,
so, good.
Hört man mich? Yeah. Okay, so first of all, a big welcome also from my side. I will start now in the beginning with the project SWAT. I will give you a few facts about the project SWAT, and afterwards I will focus on our residential high-rise H1. SWAT is part of a development area in Bahnhof Regensdorf Nord. Regensdorf is about 15 minutes away from Zurich main station. There are 17 plots along a big promenade in between, which connects 2 nearby recreation or greening areas. You can see it here on the sketch. You have Schlatt and Harthölzli, and the promenade is the connection between it. Our client is the Pensimo Management Group, and then they developed the SWAT area alongside this promenade on several plots. There are 2 plots named H and G. They are more or less completed, and the first tenants moved in 2025, so last year. And there's another one where the planning is ongoing, and there were some competitions last year which were won by Salate Architects from Basel and Doskre Architects from Zurich. And SWAT itself is based on a master plan by Peter Merkli Architects. You can see one of the first sketches from him here behind me. And Studio Merkli was also in charge for some of the buildings on the area on plot G on the right, including the second high-rise and also a lower residential building aside with a kindergarten, and we call it the Same situation here, a different view. We can see the high-rise from Peter Merkley Architects and also the Querbau aside with the kindergarten and a big loggia in front. Behind there's a commercial building from Graser-Troxler Architects. And on the, you can see it on the bottom, the right picture on the bottom, and on the face to the promenade, on the corners of those plots, we have two pavilions from Alexander Brodsky. It's a Russian architect, and he developed those pavilions for the tenants. So on the first pavilion, you can see it here. We have like a big cinema on the roof, and also some guest houses or guest flats to rent for the inhabitants. And on the other pavilion, we have a sauna, an event hall, and also a roof garden, which can be used from the whole area. Our direct neighbor is the terraced building by Lutyens Padmanabhan Architects and provides affordable housing. It's on the left, you can see it on the left side. It's the green terraced building, which is called SMLXL, and yeah, focuses on affordable housing. Then the project H1, you can see it here quite in the middle. Is the result of a competition which was held by the Pensimo Management AG in 2019. And they searched for a sustainable concept with which they could shape the area or the new Zwad area. And there was no specific lever with which they should shape this area or how they provide sustainability. So we could choose on our own for this competition. When we talk about those two high-rises, we like to talk about them as brothers and not as twins. So they have a lot of similarities. You can see it here. They have the same height, exactly 75 meters, also similar proportions and dimensions, and they also have exactly the same color. It's this brownish red. This is one of the most published visualizations of the project. But there are also a lot of differences, not only similarities. And the biggest difference for sure is that the Peter Merkley building or high-rise is a solid construction, while H1 is a timber concrete hybrid construction. And with its 75 meters, you told it already, it's the highest timber high-rise in Switzerland for now. I really like to show this picture because I show it every time when we talk about the building, because it's a structure model out of the competition from 2019, and I think it's the best way to explain the basic structure and also the distribution of the uses. We have a massive base, or you can see those two parts of the building, basically the main parts, and we have this massive base out of concrete with an outstanding core in the middle. It's kind of like a table with those high arcades and which connects to the surrounding. In the base, there are mainly uses for the residential purpose. We have mailboxes, the entrance, and also space for a restaurant or a bistro. And on level 1 and 2, there are co-working spaces. The 156 apartments, we have apartments starting from 1.5 to 5.5 rooms. Starting from the third floor on, are puzzled in, or finds its place in this wooden structure. And it's a light timber structure on 21 floors, which is basically puzzled around the core element per element. You can see it here. The wood we used is beech wood, but it's not the classic Baubuche. I really don't know the English word for Baubuche. Maybe someone knows it. Baubuche is basically beech wood, but it's laminated in thin layers with a lot of glue. In this case, we have squared timbers with 40 to 40 millimeters, and the product is called Stabbuche and is made from 100% Swiss and local wood. In comparison to the Baubuche, as I told it, there is much less glue, so we preferred this product. You can see the primary structure before the drywalls were installed. And aside, but you can't see it, there should be a floor plan where you can see one of those 4 regular floors, but I think it's gone. I don't know why. Okay, let's go on. Let's go to the detail. We can see here now that the timber construction was prefabricated. So we have wooden columns and also timber composite ceilings with 12 centimeters of concrete on top of 30 centimeters of Stabbuche beams, wooden beams. And the ceiling elements are connected to each other with such a timber joint. And in the end, you get this rigid floor. Because of the high level of prefabrication, we only needed 1 week per level on site to erect the building. With only a few hands, the elements were brought to place. Due to the fire regulations, the timber isn't visible from the outside. But inside the apartments, you can see it here in those pictures, the timber becomes a defining architectural element or feature. Fire safety also plays a role here. The reason why we are basically allowed to show this timber or to expose it is because we have a sprinkler system on the floor, which is not quite common in Switzerland, that you have a sprinkler system in housing. Yeah, but you can see it here in the image. It's more like an ornament and not that bad, I think. It's industrial, yeah, but it fits the look of the building, so yeah. And we wanted to show, of course, the construction, so this was the only reason to do that, or the only way to do that. We have also a few datas. I hope you can see it. Here are a few figures. By using the timber instead of the concrete construction, we had approximately 20% less CO2 emissions compared to regular construction. That's around 600 tons. Additionally, we had 1,500 tons of CO2, which is stored in the timber itself. Now, a few words to the facade. The facade of the whole building reflects the inside structure, which I told you about before, to the outside. So the wooden structure, starting from the third level on the upper floor, lies behind the light metal structure. The most defining element for sure is the solar panel. You can see it here. Those panels are mounted all around the entire building horizontally and evolved with the process of the planning. In the beginning of the project, those panels were part of the facade skin and installed vertically, but for multiple reasons, we changed the position. Number one for this change was definitely the energy yield. You can see it here in the data. Because with the separation of the facade and those solar panels, the usable area increased a lot. Furthermore, the panels provide sun protection in form of those like brise-soleil elements. And of course, we really like the architectural expression and the lightness behind it, which comes together with the light timber structure. Additionally to that, we could also use bifacial solar cells with this kind of construction, which can absorb light from both sides of the panel or of the cell, and additionally to the more area we could provide, we have now 10% extra yield just because of those bifacial cells. In contrast to the fine and technological facade from the upper floors, the massive base comes together with a ramped earth facade out of elements. It's also prefabricated. And those elements were produced by Lehm AG in cooperation with Keller Ziegelein. And after they dried, they had a long drying time, and after they have been brought to position on site and be fixed in place, all the joints were manually filled with clay to get a closed structure, we can say. The clay was also used in the interior of the project, for example, in our common room on the 12th floor. Here we installed a ramped earth floor. You can see it on the right picture. And in some rooms, we also used this clay in form of subfloors with different floor finishes like textile or wood. yeah, like a test or example to show that this is working. And yeah, with these images now I have reached the end of the presentation. I hope you liked what you saw, and thanks a lot.
I think Tel Aviv is up now.
Yes, thank you very much for this inspiring talk. We found that the truthfulness of the material is very inspiring. Although for us in Israel, maybe wood is not such a choice like in Switzerland, just because of the ecological footprint. But of course, this whole topic of sustainability should be discussed at large in Israel much more than it is up till now. And further to yes, what? It's running. So not running. Okay, don't run it yet. So we, in our research, as we said in the research lab, we thought, okay, what can we as Israelis bring to Germany? And we thought, okay, high tech. And then we thought, okay, there was this whole idea of WeWork in Israel, where offices were shared in a sort of living workspace, and it was really successful. And this whole idea is now brought into sort of We Lives. They're called Flow, which are not built in Israel. They're built in Miami. But as we approached the architects who designed them, he said, oh, I have a better project which I want to show you. So I'm very honored to have you, Raphael de la Fontaine, with us today. And I think you're also going to not talk about Israel again. You're going to talk about Belgrade. So please.
Thank you. Can we lift this? Can you hear me? Okay. So when I was first told that there's going to be a presentation at Liebling House, I wasn't so sure what I'm going to speak about, but when I found out that this is a conversation with Frankfurt and Tel Aviv in English, I just had to come because I was born to a German and an Israeli mother and grew up in Frankfurt. And I studied in America. I speak all three languages, and I said, this is meant to be. Also sehr schön, euch alle kennenzulernen und super interessant, alle eure Präsentationen zu sehen. Ich hoffe, ihr hört mich hier auch in Israel und in Tel Aviv. Today, instead of talking about Miami, that I originally was planning to speak about, I wanted to speak about something that has more to do with urban renewal and community. And that goes a little bit beyond what we're doing in Miami. The question is, which urban housing typology can we create to better create community? And also, in nowadays market where land is scarce and expensive, especially in countries like Israel and in Germany, we want to also support density and mixed use. We look at old typologies, then we can see the historical block here in Barcelona and other cities in Europe. I think it's a lovely typology stemming from the courthouse. Problem, like I would say, the great things about it is it creates great community spaces in the courtyard and a lot of excellent aggregation possibilities for an urban fabric. However, I think it's got its problems with adding mixed use, and I've tried, wasn't able to do it well in Switzerland actually, and also density is limited when we go to the block typology. After the Second World War, I think the most prevalent housing typology was, this is running. Is there a way to stop this from running somehow and move to a, is it working? Okay, good. So let's go forward. One more. Okay, so we were speaking about the limits of the closed block, right? And about the central courtyard, especially with mixed use and also with density. And we see the social housing blocks. You can see that on Alexanderallee in Berlin, or you can see that in the Eastern blocks. And I think what it contributed mostly was that, one, it allows more density, and also it created a little bit more public space, since the separation of buildings created community gardens between the buildings. And also it allowed maybe a beginning of a mixed use, since some building would have been residential, some would have been offices. But still it has its limits. And I think if we move forward, we can see that nowadays this is more of the housing typology that we see in expensive cities. Mostly also not because we think this is the most beautiful image in the world. I think because real estate is expensive, land is expensive. Thank you very much, Tadana. And it does allow for a couple of things that our market needs. One is high density, and second is the idea of mixed-use towers. My office is right now under construction on about 15 towers just in Israel alone. So I'm not imagining that we're going to stop doing towers, but I want to say that it has one of the biggest difficulties is, I think, community. People who live in towers are very isolated, lonely, and it becomes a very difficult thing. I remember my father, who's German, said that he hates towers, especially in Frankfurt, next to the beautiful Römerberg and all of the other parts of the city. And yeah, now I do a lot of towers. So here we see a matte building, which was a typology that I first learned about during my studies at Yale University in the US. And when you look at the matte building, we know here, we see the Free University in Berlin, but many other examples. It is more of a fabric approach of architecture. It has a lot of opportunities because a matte building, like I wrote here, is a large, low-rise and high-density architectural structure organizing by a repetitive modulated grid. And what it does, it instead of featuring, let's say, a building or a monument, it serves more as an urban fabric, and it creates a sprawling effect as it can grow, and it creates a lot of pockets of space, which is an interesting idea, since it also allows for density. But here you see, by the way, the project that I studied during my studies. This was my thesis study at Yale with Peter Eisenman, and you can see here pictures, historical pictures of the Venice Hospital. That was an incredible project that was never realized by Le Corbusier, which phenomenally, you see how it sprawls over the canals with its arms and with its wings. And the idea of a highly organized bottom-up architecture, almost parametric architecture, with the red being hospital bays with the right sizes, the yellow lines is a circulation, and the blue are the service areas. Now, there's also something very asymmetrical about its growth with the pinwheel structure here, but there are many different matte buildings that you can see, and how they aggregate is different. During those studies, my question was, can a matte building actually achieve density and mixed use? And can it actually, rather than just being a public building, which most examples were, schools, hospitals, and university buildings, can it actually serve private space? This was my thesis project. It actually won a lot of awards due to its idea, I think, mostly because what was actually novel about this idea was to incorporate social housing over public space. The public space below and the private housing on top, you can see that the bays were organized very similar to Le Corbusier's plan, with a pinwheel structure and corridors and depth of apartments that with a single loaded corridor. And slowly from below, we see the erosion of public space in a very sculptural way, almost you know, a Noli plan of Rome that is cutting out of this very repetitive and structural idea and in very intuitive erosion, which basically created exciting sections of sacred space on the ground and connected to a pedestrian realm that cut through the site. But that's all good and that's all nice, and we want to actually try this in real practice. The real practice was in, I think, 2023, when a client, Landmark Architect, came to me in Belgrade, and they said they have bought an amazing site, but they can't solve it. multiple architects have tried. It's an amazing site. It's actually sitting in a historical context, right where the meeting of the two rivers meets, the Sava River and the Danube River, which actually makes also Belgrade very important. And the tale of this city has a lot of history from Ottoman and Viennese architecture and struggles and wars, which makes it a very eclectic architectural space, but also the geography and topography of the city doesn't really allow for towers. So on one hand, they want a density. On the other hand, the city doesn't allow for towers. So I had to actually think of something, and I went back to this thesis project. Now, what is the public space that we want to bring into this project? No one wanted my basilica from Rome. What they really wanted was something that is useful to community in an area of regeneration. And what we saw there is that the Serbian people, their community happens around dining. Dining is the main place. They spend all their money on drinking and eating, and they go out every day in a way. And so really, our public function that we were thinking of was to create a food hall on the ground rather than the basilica, and on the top create the residential, just like the idea was in the first place in the basilica. The site, I think you can see here two main important things. One, it's on the edge of the historical city. The triangle is the site. And it connects with Pariska Road all the way to the Republic Square, which is the main square of the city of Belgrade. So it is on a dominant axis of the historical city, but also it's on the edge of the city. What you see across over there is the Belgrade port. And similar to Tel Aviv, which has today what's called the Parka Mesila, which is an Ottoman linear park, the Ottoman train that is no longer used, turned into a green park, or the High Line in New York. Also there, they recognize that the old tracks of the train are no longer used, and they can actually use that as a connection point for pedestrian people to come from one park to the next, and development sites along that spine would allow to revive an industrial area, which was the port area, where a lot of potential still exists. And bringing us to Kalemegdan Park, which is an incredible park that is the historical park of Belgrade on a hillside with its fortress. The site itself had a very difficult geometry. I'm not going to go through all of it, but what I will say is that there was almost no typology that would be able to allow for the density that was approved. Sometimes it happens that there's a high density approval, but no way to achieve it, and the landowner buys it, and then he thinks an architect can do magic. So the limits was not to go over 10 levels, and also to preserve certain distances from buildings, and also a fire truck that needs to go around. So actually these building lines were not even the building lines. We had to even set back more. So I also want to say that we see here the beautiful neighborhood of Dorchel, a historical neighborhood that is a little bit run down, but it's a historical neighborhood, and it became the Williamsburg of Belgrade, with bars and pubs and culture. Very cool, hip area for young people. And on the other side, you see the university campus and the park. So we're literally negotiating between public space and private neighborhood on this site. A lot of responsibility for one site in that triangular condition. And the typical closed block was, I guess, the first solution, right? Which we saw in the beginning. We couldn't achieve it. We couldn't achieve the mixed use. We couldn't achieve the density, all of that. And also repetitive long facades that were very difficult architecturally. So we really reversed the logic, and instead of the closed block typology, we went into an idea of an open block. An open block, which was basically the map building that I was searching for to begin with. What you see here in the diagram is that basically the open space, the public space, instead of serving the tenants and the people, it serves both the tenants and the neighborhood, opening to the city and also opening to the park, because the park is very narrow, and there's no way to stand because there's a bike coming and you have to constantly move. So basically creating a break within our site and creating public space in our site for people to stop motion. I'm in love with this. Actually, it became a keychain for the people who bought apartments, this shape. Why a hexagon? Because it's a triangular site. And when we tried an orthogonal mat building, we couldn't get in the areas. But once we actually acknowledged that we have a triangle and we tried to work with the angles, this was the shape that aggregates and was able to achieve much more square meters and apartments inside the project. Our architects worked extremely hard on the apartments, which you will see with this shape, but here is a rendering of the project. And you can see that this is an example of what we can do besides towers or bar buildings, allowing for high density. In Tel Aviv, we can do this, and in Frankfurt, we can do this. This is a project that serves so many different ideas at once, while still achieving the developer goals for mid-income housing or lower mid-income housing, actually. And I love this image because it shows basically how the building becomes a portal to the city and actually pulls in people through the site. Here you see the linear park, the rail park opening up to our building, and really the building becoming almost as an envelope to public space rather than the object. The building is not an object. We also try to work with scale in this, and when we looked at blocks in Belgrade or houses or buildings, there was a certain proportion to buildings, right? Because they were not built at once. So you would have a 15, 20 meter wide facade that changes over time. And actually, when you see these cuts, you see that we create some kind of rhythm that has a human scale. And here we see how that rail park runs right along it, and it creates a really interesting rhythm. And as for the private space, or let's say enclosed space, there are two main factors that we consider as semi-private and public space, which is the couple of lower levels. One is a big food hall, 4,300 square meters. It's a huge investment of the developer to create a major public space for the neighborhood. And on top of that, offices that actually allow for this project to survive all days, all hours of the day, and not turn into a difficult daytime experience nor nighttime experience. And here you see how we tested this project. We had to find where to enter, how to bring in the cores, how to situate things. So we created 4 fictional characters, 4 architects in my office. Yael is one of them. And she imagined herself being a tenant that arrives after work, parks her car, goes up to her apartment. Then she meets her friend down in the food hall. And after that, she can just go into this beautiful Deutschen neighborhood to catch a drink. This is just one scenario. The second scenario is Anton, who doesn't live here, and he comes here to work in his office, grabs a coffee in the morning and has a lunch break at the food hall. The third tenant or third actor, Gal, and she basically wakes up in her beautiful apartment in this building, goes down to the gym because we have amenities in this building. And then she grabs a coffee and goes to work in the center of the city. And finally, we have a tourist or a visitor who comes on the weekend with his family and kids and enjoys the park that we have created there for a weekend brunch that spills out into the piazza. Here's a landscape plan by our colleagues in New York, Rasa Landscape Architects, which we developed this concept for the site, and we're really trying to basically create the circulation. And when we looked at the circulation, we saw that this building has a very large perimeter, which created a difficult block condition for people. And we wanted to bring people through the site, especially because the road on the left has very difficult sidewalks and it goes onto an underpass. So people will actually move through the building, which activates the retail, allows for a lot of potential for the restaurants, and it connects back to the rail park. I promise I'm almost at the end. Here we see a rendering of how that building meets the park and how with that slight angle of the hexagon, it pulls people into the site very gently rather than meeting it at 90 degrees. And here is the little piazza that we see on the park side. we see the underpass, the passage that cuts through the building, and then we see the piazza, which has an urban feel on the other side. Food hall renderings. These were our early food hall renderings for the ground floor, which completely are disconnected from the residential experience above and activated. And then here you see this incredible floor plan of apartments and cores, which allows 46 apartments per level, which is an incredible amount of apartments on one level, all having at least single exposure for small apartments, but double exposure for all the 2-bedroom units and above. So this is a very, very, I think, functional plan, and allows for the housing units to exist and coexist within this very public project. That's it. I want to thank you, everyone. Sorry for the technical difficulties.
Thank you so much. It looks like an amazing project, and thank you for taking us through the journey of the idea, the inspiration, and then back to what you want to build now. Now is our last part. Antonia, thank you so much for your patience. Antonia Radetz will present a housing project close to Frankfurt in Ilbenstadt. She was part of another cooperative before, but now she lives in the cooperative Ökogeno, and in one of these projects is also kind of an umbrella corporation, and we will hear something about co-housing architecture and sustainability. So this project is the combination of the two before, you'll see. Please come onto the stage, there's some water, and number 1 is on for you. It's your die Macht.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you for having me here. Yeah, I'm really happy to join tonight, and I'm excited to present the co-housing project Wohnen am Klostergarten in Ilbenstadt. It's fairly new. First people have moved in there just in February, and my family, myself, and 2 befriended families that we were working on the Frankfurt project here have joined the Klostergarten in April and have set up a family cluster there with 12 people in total. Yeah, as Beata mentioned, we have been working here for the five last years, and so co-housing has become really important for us, and it was really the aim to experience this. And when we realized that we won't be able to do this here, we were looking around and found Wohnen im Klostergarten last year. And to give you an impression on where it lies, so you can see Frankfurt in the corner, and Ilbenstadt is part of Niddertal. It's it's a smaller city, and it's approximately 30 minutes train ride and 10 minutes by bike to get there. So that was also very important to us. The project itself lies in the center of Ilbenstadt. It's part of a former monastery, so it's combining both new buildings as well as some older parts. And just on the opposite side, there's the basilica that Ilbenstadt is very proud of. And so we can listen to the bells every 15 minutes. Especially in the mornings at 6 a.m. It's perfectly to get up. The other part that the one thing that was very convincing as well is the supported agricultural Klostergarten. So we do have shares in our garden for approximately 100 people. So all of the residents that are currently living there are using the Klostergarten. This is what it looks like. And it's also quite nice because it's not only the residents using it, it's all the people around Ilbenstadt and Assenheim that come there. So it's already integrating into the society and mingling, and that's really great to see. Yeah, this is the part where you can see the buildings in the background and also the basilica towers that are there. So looking at the architectural part, that was very convincing and interesting to us was the combination of the historical parts that you can see, as well as the eco-friendly buildings that were met. I'm not an architect, I'm just a resident, so I won't be able to go into details, but I just wanted to give you an impression on what we have, what we were looking at. So the new buildings, as you can see on the next slide, they are all timber-based. That's the construction of the new houses that we have. They are also certified with KfW 40, which is the new building standard. And we are also looking into a certificate of the Deutsche Gesellschaft für nachhaltiges Bauen, and might be receiving silver for that. So this is something, which is very important to us. Those buildings are combining private apartments, and there's also spaces for cultural events and social interaction. Here you can see the part of the old building. The doors that you can see, this will be the communal spaces. There's one part for the residents only. This is also financed with the renting costs, and another part will be kind of a open to the public part that we are still looking into on how we can use this for cultural events. And things like this, so this is going to be interesting as well. Unfortunately, it will only be ready end of this year, beginning of next year, but this still gives us some time to think about concepts and see how we can use this properly. Yeah, the courtyard that you can see in the front, it's already pretty in use in the last couple of weeks. We had lots of birthday parties, events. There's sometimes private concerts from some of our residents that just take out their music instruments sitting there, and it's really, really lovely. The children's going to be playing. We have pool and speedminton dates outside, so it already gives a good community there. Energy is also an important part to talk about with regards to all the changes around. We do have 2 rooftops full with solar panels that providing energy enough for all the residents living there. We do have, of course, wall boxes for individual mobility. There's a pellet heating system that we will be using, and of course bike parking has been established for at least 70 bicycles, especially on the landscape. Having so many parking spaces and being more or less only with bikes is still pretty rare. We have lots of cargo bikes that we are using for shoppings, for children's transfer, so that's kind of our part looking into the energy transition as well. Car sharing will be part of our discussions too. So currently we don't have a organized structure yet, but we do also already use private cars that we will be sharing. So this is just something that has to develop with the people living there. And that's the taunus in the back that you can see. And to mention, you can also see Frankfurt from the rooftop terrace, which is really lovely. So it's not too far away. What was also important for myself to move there was the way on how the project is organized. We've heard it already a lot, so being able to participate in decisions having the organization and all the financials kind of being taken from the residents to the residents. This comes with the Ökogeno that we are part of. So there's this umbrella organization, and for Ilbenstadt itself, we also have a small corporation which is called Ökogeno SWH. So we are all part of this, and this gives us the flexibility or the possibility to have our say and vote and to be part of the decisions being made. The project itself is also self-organized, so for all the daily businesses that needs to be done, and this is something that we use sociocracy for, so just to organize ourselves among the residents, and that's just being established, and that's really helpful. Yeah, last but not least, I want to give you an insight on the different forms of living that we're having. All of our rooms, the shared communal areas in the flats are accessible, which makes it really easy to get around. There's the different forms, so we do have single apartments, family flats, there's shared living, and we also have cluster flats available. Of course, there's a community living room that I was just showing you earlier. We have shared laundry facilities in use, and of course the large Klostergarten in the courtyard, where you have lots of spaces to be and to mingle. Yeah, this is just to give you an idea on one of our cluster flats. This is the 3-room flat. So every flat has its own private bathroom, the possibility for a little tea kitchen. And then we do have shared spaces for the living room, a lodger. Yes, that's here. And that's the layout for the 5 people's cluster. It's quite similar as well. Again, the private spaces that we have. Yeah, and in case anyone is interested to go to Ilbenstadt, we still have spaces in this cluster. It is nice to be there. Also, it's out of Frankfurt. Yeah, these are some impressions from the place that I'm living. So we're experiencing that not only the shared rooms that you have in a cluster are really interesting and important, so it's also the additional support that comes with the community and the commitment to live in such a cluster. So currently for myself, I can tell that we do have joint grocery shopping. You always have someone around in case the train runs late again, and the children are already on the way home. So it's really the interaction and the support that you can already see, yeah, which is really nice to have this way of living, which is not that common yet, but maybe this is something that we can see in the far future. Yeah, so as I said, we are still at the beginning in Ilbenstadt, but it is really worth trying. Yeah, and that's it. Happy to be here, and thanks so much.
Thank you very much. Let's take a look to Tel Aviv. Sharon, could you hear us? Could you hear Antonia?
Yes,
thank you, Antonia.
thank you,
Very
Beate.
good. So you're going to start, right?
Yes, I will start. I'll try to summarize everything we heard today, although it's so diverse. But I love that we started from this German-Israeli connection of the immigrants that really came here, the architects that studied at the Bauhaus and started with the social housing here. Ariel Sharon, diploma number 6 at the Bauhaus School is already talked about here. And then this journey we took to this beautiful project in Belgrade, which is very sort of already future oriented. But I think they all, you know, they gather around people. And the idea that we have to promote in the municipality bottom-up processes where communities can develop together and maybe even create ideas together and maybe even go to a tender together as a group already would be amazing. I think even Raphael showed us plots of how he saw the people move across. So it's in the end really all about the people, even if it's housing that is for rent. This is what I took out today, and thank you for the last presentation for the word sociocracy. I think it was something that we don't have here in Israel, or at least we don't use this term. So I think that's also a great thing to further investigate together, how to form sociocracy, and maybe also around food. It was mentioned here a lot, if it's farm to table gardening together, or if it's a courtyard for dining. So I think these are the things that I took, and also the idea of how to really in Frankfurt and in Tel Aviv design into already built fabric, and how to acknowledge what is already there and still cherish it, but look into the future. Having said that, I would open the floor for questions from you to maybe the part in Frankfurt. For whoever hasn't been here before, and the last part, I think the policy of Frankfurt is very interesting, and how they really allow groups to gather together and go for tenders, and really they choose the best practices, not through who gains most profit through the land, but who makes it a sustainable development long term. And this is how groups are chosen. So I think this is also something that we would really love to investigate here in Israel. But I would like to open up the floor for questions. We have a few minutes for questions here in Israel. Then we go to questions from Germany. Anybody wants to ask something? Okay. No. All right. So Beate, maybe
shy.
we can do.
Or maybe
They're
need
shy
a
and
minute.
tired, I think. Yes. we are an hour later, so it's also a long day. So yes, Beate, maybe you can also.
Maybe I can give it to the audience here. Is there a question for Israel or for the ones who are right here in Frankfurt? Do you have any aspects that you want to discuss further? We still have a bit of time. No hurry. You can think it through. There you go.
Hi. Hi, Sharon.
Hi.
Good to see you. I thought the projects presented in Israel were really interesting, and I'm really impressed by the one that was built already. And I have the question to the other two: are there any chances you get the projects built, or do you see a chance that we can build them in Frankfurt?
Okay.
Did you get the question? Yeah. Could you hear it? It was Andrea.
Hi, so this is Rafael. Our project is under construction in Belgrade, but in our contract there is no clause that prevents us from doing this in Frankfurt as well.
So maybe the next project might be here for you, Rafael, when you're done in Belgrade. You're the perfect fit with all these languages you know.
Yes, we have an Israeli question. I'm very excited about that. Do you want to step forward? Or here, there is a mic back there.
Thank you. So I wanted to ask about so the project that was first talked about. It was meant for a community that comes in together, and some of the later projects seem to talk about communities that are created due to the project. And I wonder, are there any plans from the city? I'm asking, was the name Anna, right?
Ella.
Ella. I'm asking Ella if the city plans to make more of the second kind of projects for not already existing communities, but to create communities within the city.
Thank you for the question. Ella?
So we're still a bit baffled about how to issue the tenders, because at least in that specific plot, because it's a joint venture, a government and city venture.
Which plot are you talking about?
The
The
plot
one in
that Thoma,
Jaffa.
that Thoma was working and Annie were working on, because it was a joint government and municipal venture, and the government found it very hard to issue tenders to groups, and would rather have done it completely open in a lottery. And they were really worried about discrimination. So that's kind of not what we were thinking. Groups would, strong groups would be a really great way to start a project like that. A group that came already socially intact and economically intact. So hopefully for us, maybe in our own, in municipal-owned land, those ideas could be approached more easily than they are at the moment, when the government is also involved and it has other issues in mind that we don't have to necessarily, tackle.
Yes, I think it's a very interesting point, because we really we talked about it a lot, want to create multidisciplinary groups that come with architectural knowledge, communal knowledge, and economic knowledge, which they then think about together in order to create something that will really hold. And I think this is why we also want to invite the Frankfurt team to come to Israel in order to help us maybe solve a way that we can learn from you guys how you do it there and implement it here in the market that we're facing, which is a bit similar to the Frankfurt market, just in terms of gentrification and the high cost of living. Yes, another question?
We have some here.
Yes, maybe from Germany first.
Yeah, I thought that Markus could maybe answer your invitation. That might be fitting.
Please. Markus, please.
Okay. Yeah. It is a difficult way, and it is a long way to organize cooperative housing, also in Frankfurt. We developed this project since 15 years, Beate. We developed cooperative housing in Frankfurt since 15 years.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
And the first years, the cooperative projects, they got the difficult plots. Only difficult plots which were owned by the public, by the city of Frankfurt. City of Frankfurt said in the first years, if you organize groups, then you can bid on the difficult plots. So the first project which were built in Frankfurt, they are all the difficult plots. The plots the private didn't want to build and to buy. Today we have a new strategy. Today the strategy is, if we develop a new neighborhood, 15% of the area must be built for individual innovative housing, for cooperative housing. That's a new city law. This new city law exists till 2019. Now we are in discussions to build a new government. Maybe we can raise this part to 20%. So maybe we can, in the future, we have 30% affordable housing and 20% of the area is reserved for innovative, for cooperative housing. To support the groups, we founded an agency. It's the Netzwerk. It's a network for cooperative housing. I think in the last session, Beate, you tell a lot about the network of cooperative housing. So it's a difficult strategy. You need the area. So the first step, it was there's difficult plots. Now we have not only difficult plots, but also the area in the new neighborhoods. So 15 to 20% in new neighborhoods. This area, we bought this area as the city from the private, and then we organized concept procedures. So we defined a fixed price, that the cost of this area is a fixed price cost, and then you can bid on this area with the best idea. That's the idea behind this concept procedure. So it's not a question of the money, of the price, it's a question of the ideas. And we supported also with public money to build affordable housing in such cooperative housing projects. So it's a multiple strategy you need, I think. But it's also a development over years. It's not a development for 1 or 2 years. In Frankfurt, we work on this field since 15 years. In Tübingen and other cities in Germany, for example, Munich, they work since 30 years on this field. In Vienna, they work since 15 years on this field. So it's a step-by-step development.
Thank you so much. Maybe this as a short introduction into what did Frankfurt do in the last 15 years on shared housing. Do you have another question there in Tel Aviv?
Yes, yes, actually. This question for Frankfurt, actually, for the last project. It sounded like a modern kibbutz in-house, and a lot of the thing in the kibbutz that crumbles in the end or didn't go as well is the ideal of working together with a community who have the same ideal didn't make it to the end. And And right now you work as a community, but in the future, when someone wants to leave this community or someone wants to rent in this community, do you have an influence on each other who gets to live in those apartments, to be your neighbor, to be a part of everything that's happening over there? And if so, everything that's spoken here before does it get any kind of diversity? That if you choose people that are not from your community, from other communities, other cultures, and how does this affect the culture, I want to say, that you build and everything, and how does it work in the long term with your share in this community, this building?
Yes, so I think it's a very good question. Did you hear it? Could you hear it?
Hast du es verstanden?
Habt ihr es verstanden?
Thank you. I think, yeah, more or less so. It was just kind of the question on how we make sure that people can move in and how we can build a diversity within that project as well, right? And how we would be able to influence new tenants and also how to have an influence on who is be moving. And so, as I said, we're just at the beginning. There's still lots of different works to do. Currently, it's kind of a multi-generational project that we are having. We have already people from different nations, different ages. There's people with disabilities that are living there as well. So because the spaces are all accessible, as I mentioned. So currently, all the different residents that live there have been chosen by the Ökogeno, who was organizing the project. In the future, we will be trying to meet the people that are interested in living with us and to see that we kind of have a common ground on the idea of living together. And to be attractive and interesting to lots of different people, no matter which nationality they come from. So we have to see how that's developing in the future, and I hope that it will become very diverse and interesting for lots of different people. Does that help? Did I meet the question?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Is there maybe a more question from here? I thought that we maybe could talk about communities again for a short time. Oh, there's a question. Sorry. Yeah, of course.
I think I have one question, because a lot of the projects that were introduced were very interesting, but what I was asking myself is, if you want to build for a community, isn't it also necessary to have some kind of processes to have the community participate in the process, so that you don't have to imagine what their needs are, but that you can also integrate different needs and different, not only needs, but also ideas and necessities, I wanted to say, I think.
Yeah, and I have a similar aspect. It fits well, because I thought you have all these kibbutzim, and I was wondering, do you include these people who live in this kind of shared living? I mean, it's a very special form which goes beyond only living together. It's also shared community, economy, etc. So do you include people who live in this form in your new projects when you try to build something, or are these people who can, I don't know, give advice or help the government by planning new areas or help the new projects to grow? Maybe it fits with your question. Did you get what we said?
Yes, please.
Cool.
Okay, so I'll try to answer the question. As for me, I was living in Kibbutz for like 5 years, and this idea is not new for me. And as I became an architect, I think all of us, the architects, like, we are trying to do the best to plan, to plan the best surrounding for the people. That's why we became an architect, basically. And I think, as I figure it right now, the most problematic thing is the bureaucracy. At least here in Israel, and is it coming for us? We are full of ideas, and like we have plenty thoughts on the shared living, and not like shared living, but like all the living parts of the questions. So we would like to cooperate and to continue planning, and let's see. Let's talk like in another 15 years, and hopefully it will be. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we've come to the end of the evening this time, Sean, and we want to invite you to our next session on the 2nd of September, where we shall discuss aspects of community and finance. We touched upon it today because I think both aspects are as important as the architecture. And we invite you to come back on the 2nd of September to the Deutsche Architekturmuseum and to the Liebling House. And we look very much forward, or maybe we meet you at the Liebling House on 2nd September. Let's see how that works out. Or maybe we come at some other time. But we will continue our wonderful collaboration, because I think we always learn from each other. And it's always inspiring to hear from projects from the other side of the Mediterranean Sea, to really see how we can best solve our common problems.
Great. So thank you so much, Andrea. I'm sure we will see you again. And I think the topic of how to solve it financially is a very important subject in Israel. And we can learn a lot from each other there as well. So having said that, looking forward to see you again. And yes, I wish you a great summer. I know it's starting now in Frankfurt as well. So hope to see you next time like us, like, you know, with the short sleeve. And thank you also, Markus, so much for this, and Beate and Juren. And,
thank you too.
Thank you too.
And our speakers and all the guests. And we see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening. Bye-bye until next time.